the part inside you that you've never truly seen. Have you ever wondered what exactly is listening to these words inside your mind right now? It's not your ears, it's not your brain, it's something quieter, deeper, something that knows you exist. It thinks without you realizing, it creates without being seen. And yet, it may be the most powerful force shaping your reality. Part 1. What is the mind and why does it matter so much? Have you ever paused, truly paused, and asked yourself a question so fundamental, yet so often overlooked? What is the mind? Not just how it functions, not simply what it thinks about, but what it is at its very core. We often toss around words like mind, brain, and consciousness as if they're one and the same, but they're not. Each of these terms unlocks a different layer of what it means to be human. The brain, first of all, is matter. Tangible, physical, measurable. It weighs about 1.3 kilograms. It's a soft, complex network of neurons and blood vessels, bathed in chemistry, alive with electricity. You can scan it with an MRI, probe it with electrodes, dissect it in a lab. And yet, even with all this access, you will never ever find a single thought under the microscope. You'll see neurons firing, chemicals flowing, signals traveling, but where in all of that is the idea, the emotion, the dream? That's where the mind enters the picture. Unlike the brain, the mind isn't something you can touch. It's not a place you can locate. It is rather a process, a dynamic unfolding experience. If the brain is the hardware, then the mind is the software, the code running behind the scenes. The mind is what thinks, imagines, questions. It remembers the past and dreams of the future. It's where curiosity sparks and decisions are born. It's the stage upon which your internal dialogue plays out, your personal theater of thoughts, feelings, and possibilities. And then beyond even the mind, there's consciousness. This is something altogether more mysterious. Consciousness is not about what the system does. It's about what it feels like to be the system. It's the raw awareness behind your eyes, the strange, silenced observer, watching your thoughts come and go. It's the sensation of being, of knowing that you exist, here and now. It's the part of you that says, I am. Let's pause and let that settle for a moment, because this is where things get truly fascinating. The mind sits in between the brain and consciousness. It is the bridge between the tangible and the intangible, between neurons and knowing, between what you are made of and what you experience. The mind doesn't merely react to the world, it models it. It takes scattered fragments of perception and weaves them together into something meaningful, into a story, into a self. When you look at the sky, the mind doesn't just register color and light. It gives the experience context. It recalls memories. It evokes emotion. It turns blue and white into freedom, nostalgia, or awe. Your mind is the storyteller behind your every moment. But why does this matter? Because when we don't understand the mind, we lose touch with ourselves. We move through life on autopilot. We react instead of reflect. We repeat old patterns, chase hollow distractions, and overlook the quiet miracles happening inside our heads. We forget that we are not our thoughts, we are the ones having those thoughts. But when we begin to understand the mind, even just a little, that's when everything starts to shift. We become aware, not just of the content of our thoughts, but of the presence of the thinker. We begin to observe the mind, rather than be consumed by it, and that changes everything. It's like stepping out of a noisy room into a quiet field. For the first time, we hear the silence underneath the noise. We sense the spaciousness behind the chatter, and that, my friend, is the beginning of awakening. It is the moment you stop being trapped by the narrative and start becoming the author. It is the instant when your mind becomes not just a machine for thinking, but a gateway to deeper awareness, to creativity, to stillness, to freedom. You see, the mind is not your enemy. It is not a prison. It is not something to escape. It is a garden. And with understanding, with presence, with care, you can learn to tend it. You can notice which thoughts nourish you and which ones deplete you. You can cultivate clarity instead of confusion, peace instead of noise. You can learn to pause before reacting, to question your own assumptions, to listen not just to the world, but to your own inner wisdom. The moment you do, life begins to feel less like something happening to you and more like something happening through you. You begin to sense the power of awareness. You begin to see the patterns of your own thinking. You start noticing how your perception shapes your reality, not the other way around. And slowly, gently, a shift occurs. You're no longer merely surviving. You are waking up. So the next time you find yourself lost in thought, take a breath and remember, you are not just a brain reacting to the world. You are a mind making meaning. You are awareness, alive and witnessing itself. That is something worth understanding. That is why the mind matters so much. Part 2. From reflex to reflection, the birth of the mind. Let's take a step back in time. Not just a few years, or even a few centuries. Let's travel far beyond recorded history, beyond the rise of civilization, beyond the invention of fire, beyond the first mammals that walked the earth. Let's go all the way back to the very beginnings of life itself. In those early days, life was simple, incredibly simple. There were no thoughts, no dreams, no memories or plans, just microscopic organisms drifting through the oceans. Just chemical reactions playing out in warm pools, under alien skies. Just cells responding to their environment through the most basic form of intelligence, reflex. Imagine a jellyfish drifting in the sea. It pulses, it moves, it reacts to touch or changes in water temperature. But it doesn't think, it doesn't feel. Its behavior is not chosen, it's triggered. Just automatic loops hardwired into its biology. A worm recoils from light, not because it knows what light is, but because it's been programmed to withdraw. It doesn't wonder why the light is there. It doesn't weigh options. It just reacts, instinctively. But over millions of years, something remarkable began to unfold. Reflex was no longer enough. The creatures that could merely react started to fall behind. The world was changing, growing more complex, more competitive, more unpredictable. To survive, life needed more than instinct. It needed awareness. It needed the ability to pause, to learn, to adapt. And slowly, evolution delivered just that. In tiny, almost imperceptible increments, some organisms began to develop nervous systems. These early neural networks allowed for more complex responses, more than just stimulus in, reaction out. Now there could be processing in between, a moment to hesitate, a space to choose. For the first time in history, something inside a living creature said, wait, that simple pause changed everything, because with it came the ability to simulate, to create a miniature version of reality inside the body, inside the nervous system, before taking action in the real world. Should I turn left or right? Is that a shadow or a predator waiting in silence? Instead of reacting blindly, these creatures could now run mental rehearsals before they acted. And this was the beginning of something extraordinary. This was the birth of the mind, not in one miraculous moment, but gradually, layer upon layer, cell by cell, synapse by synapse. The path from reflex to reflection was slow but unstoppable. First came sensation, raw data from the world. Then came perception, organizing those sensations into meaning. Next came memory, holding on to past experiences so they could inform future ones. And then the real magic, imagination. the ability to not only remember the past, but to predict the future. Life was no longer trapped in the moment, it could stretch itself across time. What we call thought today began as a mere survival advantage, a tiny edge in a dangerous world. But from that seed, an entire inner universe grew. Suddenly, creatures weren't just reacting, they were strategizing. They could remember where food had been found before. They could learn from mistakes. They could adapt within a lifetime, not just across generations. It was no longer just about biology, it was about psychology. And then came humans. Our ancestors inherited this growing power of mind and took it to unprecedented heights. Their brains grew larger, more complex. Language emerged. Culture blossomed. Stories were told around fires. Tools were shaped. Plans were made. Identities were formed. And here's the miracle. The mind didn't just grow smarter. It grew softer, more nuanced, more curious, more self-aware. It started asking deeper questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What should I do? The human mind became a mirror, not only reflecting the world outside, but turning inward, reflecting on itself. This is the legacy we carry within us today. So the next time you find yourself lying awake at night, torn between two choices, playing out different futures in your head, remember, that's not a flaw, that's not a weakness, that's your ancient mind at work, doing exactly what it evolved to do, rehearsing, simulating, planning, reflecting. And with each reflection, it's offering you something incredible, the power to choose, to pause before you act, to learn from yesterday and prepare for tomorrow, to step out of blind reflex and into conscious reflection. You see, the mind is not just a byproduct of evolution, it is evolution's greatest leap, a miracle of design that lets you not only survive, but imagine who you could become. Yes, the mind can be noisy. Yes, it can be messy. But it's also the source of every invention, every poem, every breakthrough in history. It's what allows us to dream, to create, to love, to grow, and perhaps most importantly, it allows us to reflect on what it means to be alive. So, when you feel lost in thought, uncertain about the future, or overwhelmed by the complexity of life, pause just for a moment and smile, because that feeling, that reflection isn't confusion. It's a sign that your mind is awake. It's a sign that you are alive, and that is something truly profound. Part 3. The mind as a mirror, memory, emotion, and identity. Let me ask you something. How do you know who you are, really? Take a moment. Strip away the surface, your job title, your address, the clothes you wear. Beneath it all, what holds your identity together? Is it your name? The memories etched into your past, the dreams that quietly pull you forward, or maybe the fears that hold you back? Whatever answer comes to mind, it shares a single root. The mind, your mind doesn't just store your sense of self, it creates it. It's the quiet artist painting continuity onto the canvas of chaos. The whispering thread that ties together your past, your present, and the person you imagine becoming. Because the truth is, everything changes, your body grows older, your relationships evolve, your surroundings shift like sand in the wind. Even your thoughts aren't the same from one moment to the next, and yet, somehow, there is still a feeling of you, something coherent, something consistent, a voice in the background saying, "This is me." That isn't a coincidence. It's not a trick of nature. It's a masterpiece of the mind. You see, the mind doesn't merely process the world, it interprets it. It doesn't just record facts, it wraps them in emotion. It filters your perception through attention, through focus, through intention. It takes scattered fragments of experience and weaves them into a narrative, your narrative. This is how identity is born. Think about it, two people can live through the exact same event, a childhood memory, a breakup, a near-death experience, and yet come away with two completely different stories. One sees loss, the other sees growth. One walks away in pain, the other in peace. Why? Because each person experiences reality through a different mental lens, a lens shaped by memory, emotion, belief, and focus. And here's the miraculous part. That lens, it's not set in stone. It's not fixed. It's not permanent. It's plastic, fluid, flexible, alive. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to rewire itself based on what you learn, feel, and experience. You fall in love, and your brain reshapes itself. You grieve, and the architecture of your mind changes. You meditate, face a fear, let go of the past, and something deep within you transforms. Your thoughts are not just fleeting, they leave footprints. They mold the brain's pathways, they rewire synapses, they reshape your biology, and that means something beautiful. You are never stuck. Who you were last year is not who you are today. Who you are today is not the limit of who you can become. Every new experience, every insight, every heartbreak and healing adds a brushstroke to the evolving portrait of you. So when we talk about personal growth, what we're really talking about is mental evolution. It's not just emotional, it's not just spiritual, it's biological healing from trauma. That's your mind rewiring itself, letting go of limiting beliefs. That's architecture shifting, learning to love yourself. That's neurons forming new patterns of compassion and connection. We often think of the mind as something abstract, something vague and untouchable, but it's not. It's alive, it remembers, it adapts, it forgives, it grows. And perhaps the most profound truth of all is this: you are not a static identity, you are a process, a becoming. You are not bound by the stories you once told yourself, not shackled by the fears you used to carry, not defined by the mistakes you've made or the pain you've endured. Your mind, your miracle of a mind, holds the power to rewrite, to reimagine, to begin again. So if you feel lost, if you're caught in a cycle, if you're staring at the mirror and struggling to see who you are, take heart, because change is not only possible, it's inevitable. Your brain is always listening, always learning, always ready to grow in a new direction. The moment you decide to lead it there, and you can lead it. By noticing your thoughts instead of obeying them, by reframing your story instead of reliving it, by choosing to believe something better about yourself, even if you're not there yet. Because belief is a beginning, and every belief has the power to reshape the mind that holds it. You are not who you were a year ago. You are not even who you were yesterday. And that is not something to fear. That is something to celebrate, because it means you are free, free to remember differently, free to feel more fully, free to become someone new, not by denying your past, but by building upon it. Not by pretending it never hurt, but by allowing it to heal. And in that healing, in that becoming, the mirror of your mind clears. You begin to see yourself not as broken or unfinished, but as unfolding, as worthy, as whole. So look into that mirror, not just with your eyes, but with awareness, with gentleness, with wonder, because what you're seeing isn't just a reflection, it's a living, breathing, transforming miracle, and it's you. Part 4, patterns, perception, and the illusion of reality. Now here's something that might shake you a little. You don't actually experience reality, not directly. You experience your mind version of reality, and that makes all the difference. Everything you see, hear, feel, taste, and remember, all of it is filtered, interpreted, assimilated into meaning by a system that is constantly guessing, simplifying, and filling in the blanks. The world you think you live in, it's not a direct download, it's a reconstruction, a virtual simulation stitched together from fragments of light, sound, sensation, memory, emotion, expectation. This might sound like science fiction, but it's neuroscience. Right now, as you read these words, your brain is not passively receiving data. It is actively creating your world. Your eyes take in light, but they don't see. Your ears vibrate with sound, but they don't hear. Your brain sees. Your brain hears. It decodes, it predicts, it invents, it fills in gaps with memories, guesses, and emotional patterns. What you experience is never the raw truth of the world, it is always your mind's interpretation of it. And here's the twist. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. Your brain is an efficiency machine. It evolved not to deliver truth, but to deliver survival, to simplify the overwhelming complexity of existence into something usable, navigable, actionable. To do that, it relies on patterns. It recognizes a face in a crowd in milliseconds. It hears your name in a noisy room and tunes in. It senses danger not because there's proof, but because there's a pattern it's seen before. This is called heuristic processing, the use of mental shortcuts to solve problems quickly. They're fast, they're efficient, and they're often invisible, but they come with trade-offs. Heuristics are what give rise to cognitive biases, confirmation bias, anchoring bias, availability bias. These aren't signs of broken thinking. They are signs of a brain doing its job with limited resources and lightning speed. For example, confirmation bias. That's your brain filtering information to fit the beliefs you already hold, because it's faster and safer than re-evaluating everything from scratch. Anchoring, that's your mind grabbing onto the first piece of information it receives and using it as a reference point, even when it doesn't make sense. We all do this. Not because we're flawed, but because this is how we make sense of a world that never stops moving. But here's the beauty, because this system isn't fixed, we can become aware of it. We can start to see the patterns that are shaping us. And once we see them, we can begin to choose them. We can begin to shape them. That's where the illusion ends and freedom begins. Let's take something as simple as a sunrise. You wake up early. You step outside. The sky is painted in pinks and golds, and suddenly your heart swells. You feel awe, you feel wonder, maybe even tears in your eyes. What's happening here? The sun is just light. The sky is just particles scattering wavelengths, but your mind turns it into meaning. Your mind is what says, "This is beautiful." Your mind is what says, "I feel alive." It connects the colors to your emotions, your memories, your longing for something bigger. Or take a smell, a certain perfume, a whiff of cinnamon, the scent of summer rain. In an instant, you're not here anymore. You're back in your grandmother's kitchen, or at a childhood birthday, or walking hand in hand with someone you once loved. That's your mind traveling through time. That's your perception turning a scent into a story, a moment into a memory, a chemical signal into a soul deep feeling. And this is not trivial. This is the power we carry every single moment, because we don't just live in the world, we live in the story we tell ourselves about the world. And that story is shaped by what we focus on, what we believe, what we expect. It's shaped by patterns. And here's the incredible truth: we are not prisoners of those patterns. We are painters of them. You are not at the mercy of perception. You are a participant in it. So yes, what you experience is filtered. It is not the raw world. It is your version of it. But in that version lies your power to find beauty, to rewrite fear, to shift meaning, to build a reality that honors your growth. The illusion once seen becomes a canvas, and you become the artist. Part 5, the inner cosmos, consciousness, connection, and the final mystery. Let's go deeper now, deeper than neurons, deeper than neurons, deeper than thoughts, deeper than memory or language or belief. Let's enter the place where it all begins and where it all returns. Let's talk about consciousness, not just the mind, not the thoughts inside it, but the space in which those thoughts arise, the witness behind the noise, the silent observing presence that knows it exists, that is consciousness. And it might be the single greatest mystery in the known universe, more mysterious than dark matter, more elusive than time, more intimate than breath. You are not just alive, you are aware that you are alive. And that simple fact changes everything. Consciousness is the reason you can hear your own thoughts, question your own emotions, reflect on your own reflection. It is the presence within the presence, the light in which all experience is illuminated. But what is it really? Ask 10 scientists, and you'll get 10 theories. Some say it's an emergent property, something that arises when the brain reaches a certain level of complexity, like heat from friction. Others argue it's an illusion, a clever trick the brain plays on itself to simulate a self and hold a narrative together. Still others, philosophers, poets, mystics, suggest that consciousness is not something that arises from matter, but that matter arises from consciousness, that we are not in the universe, but the universe is in us. That awareness is not a byproduct of the brain, but the foundation of reality itself. No one knows for sure. And yet, here you are, you may not be able to define it, you may not be able to locate it in space or measure it in time, but you feel it. Right now, you are aware of reading these words. You are aware of your body, your breath, your thoughts. You are aware that you are aware. That recursive loop, that miracle of self-recognition is not just a function, it's an experience, a mystery that cannot be explained away, only witnessed more deeply. And perhaps that is what unites us, not our DNA, not our culture, not our opinions, but this shared mystery of awareness. Because no matter where you're from, what language you speak, or what story you believe, you know what it feels like to be you, to exist, to wonder, to hope, to hurt, to love, and yet no one will ever know exactly what that feels like. No one else will ever step fully into the private galaxy of your mind. Your memories, your dreams, your fears, your joys, they are yours alone. But here's the miracle. Despite that separateness, despite the vast solitude of being, our minds can touch through empathy, through compassion, through silence. Through a glance, a gesture, a shared moment of understanding, we bridge the gap. You may live inside your own mind, but sometimes for just a second, another mind meets you there. You see them, and they see you, and in that moment something profound occurs. You feel less alone. You feel part of something larger. Maybe that's what love is. Maybe that's what connection merely means, not sameness, but shared wonder. So what then is the purpose of consciousness? Is it to explain it, to dissect it, to reduce it to parts? Maybe not. Maybe the goal isn't to solve consciousness, but to honor it, to explore it, to use it with intention, to walk through the corridors of your inner world with reverence, to remember that within your skull lies a universe more complex than galaxies, and within your awareness lies the power to transform everything, because consciousness is not just about thinking, it's about witnessing, it's about being present with what is. It's about choosing how to meet this moment. It's about recognizing that your attention, where you place it, is the paintbrush with which you color your world. You can use it to judge, to fear, to close off, or you can use it to listen, to open, to awaken. And this is where the journey comes full circle. To understand the mind, truly understand it, is not to memorize facts about the brain. It's to experience yourself from the inside out. It's to see that behind every thought is a thinker, behind every story, a storyteller, behind every moment, an awareness watching it unfold. So the question becomes, what will you do with this awareness? Will you sleepwalk through life, lost in the noise of thought? Or will you wake up and realize that the greatest frontier is not out there in the stars, but in here, inside the cosmos of your mind.